What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Nintendo Land, and today we are continuing to go over the thread of Fecto Elfilis, the ultimate life form, the final boss from Kirby in the Forgotten Land. Now, if you haven't seen part 1, you probably should do so to get caught up, but if not, I'll give you a quick analysis of exactly who Fecto Elfilis is, because today we're moving on to the post-game content and talking about all the information regarding the soul of Fecto Elfilis, and of course, including Chaos Elfilis itself, because there's so much more details and lore that go a lot deeper with the rest of the game. So if you want to check out the first video, the card is above, and also make sure that you leave a like and subscribe to stay up to date on all things Kirby, the Forgotten Land, and of course Nintendo in general, and let's make our way to that goal of 200,000 subscribers. You guys have been helping out so much, so thank you for all of your support, and let's get on to the video. The last time we talked about Fecto Elfilis, we confirmed the story of this creature invading this Forgotten Land, and the people of this land was able to capture him and eventually experiment on him for 30 years, until eventually a warp incident occurred, separating the creature into two separate species, being Elfilin and of course Fecto Elfilis. We discussed how both creatures had similarities between mouses and butterflies, and also some type of weird animal tail that they both had in common. The people of this world then used the technology in order to create dimensional rifts in order to land in a place of dreams that we think might be planet Popstar. With the civilization gone, this then left Fecto to be desperate to take control of Leongar, the Beast King, in order to get his gang of beasts in order to capture Waddle Dees that he brought from planet Popstar, and also to find his missing half of Elfilin. With Kirby defeating Leongar that was possessed, and eventually defeating all the different forms of Fecto, and then eventually Fecto Elfilis, Kirby was able to reign triumph and save the day. But now we pick up back where we left off at the very end of the game. We see Leongar in some type of giant dream bubble, curled up and probably in some type of stasis. And we know that this is all because of Elfilis once again. Yes, Kirby didn't defeat him completely. There was still some fragments left behind, and we actually get to find out exactly what happened. Once again, we get more information from the figurines, and this one comes from Fecto Leon. It states that the specimen tagged as ID F86 left formless and floating after a humiliating defeat, fled to Fecto Dreams to plot their next steps, create a new army of phantom beasts, then claim Leongar's body as their own. So really, Fecto used whatever power he had left to create his own dream world, and this is all the memories that he remembers from this land, which of course is all the past areas of the Forgotten Land. But he needs a new vessel, he needs a new body to recreate, and of course that new body comes in the form of Leon, who is still alive in that lab. So he separates Leon's soul into many different pieces all over the Fecto Dreams, and Kirby has to collect them all in order to get them back into Leon's body for him to be reawakened. So since this is Fecto's dream world, he can change it up and recreate it any way he wants, also creating his own army and legion, being the Phantom Beasts. Now these are copies of the beast pack that we've seen already, and also some beasts that are just completely corrupted that you can see all over the map. Now he's pretty much like creating his own versions of nightmares within his own dream world, which is very interesting because this actually kind of reminds me of course, the boss Nightmare. Nightmare's main goal was to bring nightmares to Dreamland, and doing so with his own army of nightmare creatures, and I wonder if this has some type of influence on Fecto. This would also make a lot of sense if the people of this world actually did go to Popstar. This is exactly probably one of the very first threats they would ever face, because they thought this land was going to be peaceful, not really knowing it still could be very corrupted with bad people, and we know that Nightmare was one of the very first villains to enter Popstar and cause havoc. So maybe Nightmare was there for a very long time before Kirby even showed up and was kind of working in the background, and maybe this led to inspiration for Fecto, or maybe Fecto even created him somehow, who knows. Now Kirby finally makes it back to Lab Discovera, but of course this time it's in the Fecto Land version, so it's really in the dream version of Fecto. It's not the actual Lab Discovera, it's just what he remembers. Now take a listen here. Once again, as Kirby makes his way down the hallway, he hears a very eerie remembering sound of that speaker he heard the first time, giving the tour of obviously everyone coming to see this specimen. And this is very creepy because this shows that this is what Forgo has been hearing for years and years and years, and it's tormented him. Him having to see all these people come in and view him and watch him and take pictures and just be in all of this specimen as he's locked behind this cage. He's heard the same, and here we are, and welcome to Lab Discover spiel over and over again, and in some way it's actually become kind of a nightmare for the creatures, something that it's endured over and over again, and now it's all it can think about is that last instance of people coming in and hearing that spiel of the same line over and over again. Kirby and Elflin are then able to return the missing soul fragments of Leon's body and bring him back to normal. Well, at least they think, because it's already too late. The soul fragments have already been separated, and Forgo has already been able to capture the body of Leon. It's just waiting for the right time to attack, and eventually it does, converting him into Forgo Leon. Remember, everything that's in Leon right now is not just him being mind-controlled like he was the first time, as Forgo sat in the background. This time, Forgo is one with him. He's already inside of him and using his body as a vessel, because right now, Forgo is just a floating, formless soul with nothing left. So, it's using Leon as his last form of attack. Halfway through the battle, we actually get to see Forgo make an appearance in its soul form, right above Leon. And you can see that it's actually corrupting him, but now also has the power to fight separate from the body itself. Then turns Leon into one of his phantom beasts, and doing so leaves Leon to be controlled by himself now. He's brainwashed and fighting alone, giving Forgo the opportunity to fight alongside him in kind of a 2v1 manner against Kirby. Forgo looks the same in this state, but just in his soul form this time around. You can still see the veins stretching across his head coming from his brain, or at least its soul brain? What would you even call that? I don't know, but it just shows you just how powerful the mind of this creature is, and just the capabilities that it has. It teleports and phase shifts around the room, causing massive dark matter explosions, which try to consume Kirby. It can also shoot out particles of electricity, but that's about all the creature can do right now in its soul form, until it eventually gets a host or some type of new evolutionary step, which it's about to get. Eventually, Kirby was able to smack Forgo out of Leon's body, which then left him looking normal, but in fact, it's still his soul form, and it looks like his soul form was just about to fight Kirby in his psychic beast form as well. Now, as much as I would have liked to seen this battle as well, I don't think it would have went well for Soul Forgo at all, because we've already seen it wasn't able to do a lot under the control of Leon, so it probably wouldn't be able to do a whole lot here in its soul form. A lot of their energy is already drained and it's already running on super low power. Well, that is until someone intervenes. We know the Morpho Knight Butterfly flies in, lands on Forgo, and eventually wiping him of all of his power, and draining it into the butterfly itself to once again give Morpho Knight his power. We talked about this multiple times, and of course, more information is going to come in Morpho Knight's own separate video that I have planned. But, of course, all this power is drained into Morpho Knight itself. Forgo is still technically alive, but within the power essence of Morpho Knight. And you can even see it with some of his attacks where he's able to summon ghost forms of Forgo as well to chase after Kirby. So this does technically mean that anything that Morpho Knight consumes, he's able to have that essence still stored inside, and probably remnants of those essences, which is going to come in handy in a few minutes. When Kirby defeats Morpho Knight, you can see him slowly raise up in the sky and drift away. But at the very last second, you can make out a circular figure that spawns from the aftermath of Morpho Knight disappearing and warps straight up through the roof to the sky, which we know to be the new form of Fecto Elfilis, Chaos Elfilis. And this is a completely new formed version of Elfilis from the power of Morpho Knight. Kirby then finally makes his way to the roof of this dream dimension in this different realm in order to fight Chaos Elfilis. Thanks to a lot of elements, and specifically Morpho Knight, Elfilis was able to retain a new body in a stronger form at that as well. We once again get another description in-game talking about exactly what this is. It states that Chaos Elfilis is a unique convergence of elements, from native beast souls to ethereal butterfly, gave a stubborn soul one last chance at revenge. This new creation, driven by pure chaos, was defeated by the bright light of Kirby's hope. So yes, thanks to Kirby defeating Morpho Knight, it was able to gather the soul from all of the different beasts of this world that he's consumed, and also the rest of the essence of Morpho Knight in order to develop a stronger, more powerful version of itself. And you can actually see this displayed in the colorway in the form of Chaos Elfilis. It does resemble a lot of that of Morpho Knight. Even with the wings and even the antlers on its head are this new crimson red color, with orange and yellow colors also going throughout its body. And underneath the antlers where they sit on his head, they almost sit on his head kind of like a helmet, very similar to the design of Morpho Knight's helmet. And it's even more evident thanks to his new spear, which is completely redesigned to almost look like one of Morpho Knight's giant blades, with the gold embroider all around it. Now he fights mostly the same here, with a couple of new additions, such as adding a giant soul version of himself in the background, able to strike with his spear as well, and also just a couple of new swift, faster attacks this time around. But for the most part, it's still essentially the same version of himself, just fighting a lot harder. But I want to spend some time to actually talk about Elfilis himself, because we really didn't even do this with his regular version being Fecto Elfilis. I kind of want to talk more about what he's comprised of. My original theory is that Fecto Elfilis was some type of creature made in a lab from somewhere else, before even arriving to the Forgotten Lands, and somehow became too powerful and ended up causing chaos. So I think he actually was already a lab rat before once again becoming another lab rat for the people of this land, which just made him even more angry. I think there's a lot of factors too with this design that makes me think this way. For one, the wings could also be some type of bird/butterfly hybrid that he has on him. We noticed that Elfilin has a lot of butterfly features, and so does this creature, and I think it may have been fused with those two different creatures as well. Now the mane around its neck could be a lot of different creatures, but I always just kind of go back to once again a lion, and maybe that's the reason why he wanted to take over the lion in the first place. He knows who he is, and he knows how powerful lions are and how they're the king of the beasts, and that's how some of his DNA was formed. He also has antlers very similar to that of a deer or some type of elk. Once again, his legs are also built like the hind legs of some type of deer or elk as well, seeming like that may have had some big influence on its design. He also has these weird whisker things coming out the side of his head, and I feel like I've seen these before on some type of creature. I just cannot remember. Maybe you guys could help me out a little bit if there's something that I'm missing. But something else that kind of remind me of is little tiny like tarantula legs or some type of spider that it could also have been fused with. Then of course, its main body and arms does resemble that of a human bipedal. So I wonder if there was some type of human interference with this as well, or some type of, civilization creature that got morphed with all these animals, unfortunately. And I guess you could also say the nails resemble some type of cat creature, but you could also say that was the lion again. Can't have a lab rat without a rat, and of course, its nose and structural face does resemble that of a mouse, and we've seen this already with Elfilin, and it just is once again evident here with the final form of this creature with its little tiny nose on the top. And finally, we have its tail, which does kind of remind me of a fox or a wolf. It's big, bushy, and it's pretty long. So we do know this creature is made up of multiple different animals in some way, which does still lead me to believe it was once some type of lab rat, and very unfortunate with the way it was made. It was combined with a lot of different creatures and maybe even a human as its host. We then finally get a soul energy form of Chaos Elfilis at the very end, where it just completely consumes the body and uses it as pieces of matter. Of course, its weaponry as it floats around him.
And here we are.
Yeah, we still get those creepy sounds of the tour guide and the music that played, because once again, it still haunts this creature. It still was something it's heard for years and years and years, and it's still in its memories, and it will not let it go. It's bothering it so bad, in fact, it continues to replay this sound over and over again throughout the battle, which is just very creepy. What's very creepy about this creature is that we actually see attacks that we've actually seen before from past bosses. This cutter move that it uses, where it shoots out these boomerang-like projectiles, was actually used by a couple of bosses, and some of them include Marks from Kirby Superstar, and of course, Dark Matter, on several different occasions, which is very interesting, but there's still one more move that I want to talk about. Well, I lied, actually about two more, because this one actually does remind me a lot of Dark Mind as well, where it just catches fire and moves back and forth throughout the background trying to hit Kirby, which is very interesting as well. But actually, one more that I want to talk about. There's a move where it will enlarge in itself and bounce around the background, eventually landing on the stage, stretching out and causing a shockwave, which we've already seen from the likes of Drawsia's Soul from Kirby Canvas Curse. Once again, very interesting that it has lots of these similar moves from past bosses. We really don't see anything like this from Fecto Elfilis until Morpho Knight's influence, which this is all after the fact. So it does make me wonder, what if Morpho Knight actually had influence on a lot of these things? What if he actually battled and corrupted lots of these characters in the past and actually brought them into the moveset of Fecto Elfilis? There's a lot to unpack here, and it's really almost impossible to say right now with the little bit of information that we have, but there are a lot of similarities that we can definitely conclude. Finally, when Chaos Elfilis is destroyed, you can see the many different forms of beasts that it's corrupted along its path, and eventually they're all trying to escape at the last second, but it just peters into nothingness. It also states at the end that the last bit of life that remained willingly returned to Elfland. At last, two became one. So it seems like that Chaos Elfilis kind of just gave up. It's over. There was nothing left for it to do, and it had no more life force, just a little that was left of its soul. And it decided to finally surrender and give itself to Elfland to become a whole pure creature once again, which is actually kind of sweet that the two finally became one creature of pure good. Finally, he was done with his mischief, which is actually a really nice ending that I enjoyed a lot. Of course, Elfland now has the ability to use dimensional rifts, and we've seen him actually save himself with a dimensional rift and come back to visit Kirby, also allowing Kirby to travel between Popstar and this Forgotten Land whenever he wants. So it is actually finally a happy ending for Kirby, and things look like they've went back to normal. And that is the full story of Fecto Elfilis, because we don't really know anything else until more details come out, or maybe Nintendo gives us some DLC or something maybe explaining some backstory of this creature. This is all we know and all we have to look at. But it's a very fascinating story, and it makes you wonder what actually happened to the creature in its past, and how it actually became this chaotic creature. Maybe it was just born, or maybe there's some darker, sinister things that's happened to it from another world. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and if you found any more details that might lead to more speculation of this creature. And thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys enjoyed this theory and explanation, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to stay up to date on all things Kirby, and there's definitely going to be some more lore coming your way. Of course, featuring the world, the inhabitants of this world, and also Morpho Knight himself. Thank you so much for tuning in, and like always, I'll see you all on the next one. See you guys.